Hey everyone, my name is Chelsea. Welcome to Little Mountain Ranch. Welcome to my kitchen. I'm happy to have you here with me today. We are going to make a recipe today that is purely for fun and something that I think my kids, well, I know my kids are really going to love. Dan was scrolling through Instagram this morning and he came across a recipe for these tiny little tater tot burgers. They're about this big and about this big around. And he mentioned it to the kids and everybody thought that that would be absolutely amazing. So I don't have any tater tots in my freezer. That's not something that I commonly buy. I have an idea to make some kind of flat, little, slightly more round than a traditional tater tot would look. So I'm going to just kind of play around with that today and see what I can come up with. So everybody's pretty excited about this. So the first thing that you need to do to make some homemade tater tots like this is to parboil some potatoes. And that basically just means to boil them just long enough that you can barely insert a fork into them. You don't want to be able to insert a fork and then have them break apart. That's too soft. And then you'll want to cool them down right away. And the reason that we want them to be slightly firm still is so that we can grate them with a grater, which is what we're going to do right now. You're also going to need some oregano, some salt, some pepper, some garlic powder, and some onion powder, or any other seasonings that you want to add to your tater tots. That's just what I'm doing today. Before we go any further, I just wanted to thank the sponsor of today's video, which is BetterHelp. I don't know if you remember this, but around a year ago, just under a year ago, we lost a family member. And that, combined with some other things that were going on in our personal lives, made last summer so difficult, one of the most difficult that I have ever experienced. And somebody mentioned to me a couple of months after that loss that I might want to consider seeing a therapist. And so I did some research and I found BetterHelp and I hired a therapist and I worked with her for just about 6 months. And I can honestly say that I don't think I would have made it as well through that period if I hadn't had her support. It was just somebody to listen, somebody to offer me some feedback and maybe some insights, some things that I could do to help with the grieving process. And I am so grateful for that. When BetterHelp offered to sponsor a video on my channel, I leapt at the opportunity because it really was something that was so beneficial to me and helped me go through, like I said, one of the most difficult periods of my life. BetterHelp connects you with a licensed therapist who can give you unbiased and helpful advice. You just have to answer a few basic questions, and BetterHelp will match you with a professional that has years of experience. And one of the things that I loved about this process was that I was able to request a therapist with the specific skills that I was looking for, that had experience with dealing with the circumstances that I was personally dealing with in my life. The thing that's wonderful about BetterHelp is that you can do your therapy in the place that you are most comfortable. And for me, that was at home over my computer, but you can also do it over your cell phone, landline, and even messaging. One of the things that's so wonderful about this kind of therapy is that you can schedule it around your schedule. So for me, I really needed to see a therapist right in the thick of summer when things are absolutely crazy busy here. And I really don't have the time to, or I didn't at the time have time to track down a therapist in town and make appointments, and all the travel and all of that kind of stuff to be able to go made it really prohibitive for me. And plus, honestly, in the state that I was in at that point, I really didn't want to do that. So to be able to do my therapy from the comfort of my own home was fantastic. Let BetterHelp connect you to a therapist that can support you going through whatever it is that you're personally going through in your life. Visit betterhelp.com/Little Mountain Ranch or Little Mountain Ranch during the sign-up process, and you will be offered a special discount on your first month. Thank you to BetterHelp for sponsoring today's video and also for just being an absolutely fantastic platform. So we're just going to take our potatoes and get them all grated. Okay, so now we have our bowl full of potato and we get to season it now. Okay, so into this, we are going to add a couple of teaspoons of salt, some pepper, onion powder, garlic powder, little bit of oregano, and a couple of tablespoons of flour. And then we'll mix it all up. So I'm just going to make these into kind of bun. So rather than a tater tot that's kind of round this way, I'm just going to flatten it out a little bit so that it works a little bit better as a top and bottom bun for our little burgers. We're going to use avocado oil for this because avocado oil doesn't have a ton of flavor to it. If you have a thermometer for deep frying, you want this to go up to 350 degrees. I don't, so I'm just going to drop a little bit in, and when it gets to the point where it's starting to turn golden brown, then I know we're at the right temperature. I'd say we're good. Let's give it a try. So we just want to go for around 3 minutes. Okay, so I've just put some goggles on because I did just get a little splash and I do not want to get that in my eye. Now we have 2 pounds of ground beef here and we are just going to season this up. You can use whatever burger recipe that you like. Then I'm going to add salt, pepper, garlic powder, onion powder, a little bit of ketchup, and a little bit of mayonnaise. I know that sounds weird, but it is good. And probably a little bit of oregano, just a smidge, ketchup. Okay, that's the last batch into the oil. We have tons made here and they are insanely delicious, just like that. So good. I guess I'm not adding mayonnaise into this because my mayo is downstairs and I don't want to go grab it. So I am going to add, I have my eggs, my ketchup, oh, a little bit of Worcestershire sauce. There we go. Now we'll mush all this up and make some little mini burgers. So now we're just going to make some little burgers. So basically some meatballs flattened out. These aren't going to shrink a ton because this is really lean beef. So I think I could probably go even a little smaller than that. So the plan with all that oil that I used is I'm just going to strain it out so it doesn't have all the chunks of potato in it. And then I'll put it in a jar and keep it for when I want to do some deep frying again. I don't do a ton of deep frying, but I don't want to waste all that oil either. So now we're just frying up our little mini burgers. You could bake these in the oven as well, the way that I did my meatballs in my last video. Okay, this is what we have prepped for our burgers. We have little tiny lettuce leaves that are cut in circles, and I'll show you what we used for that. Biscuit cutters, which worked perfectly. We have tiny little burgers, some of them, the rest of them are still on the stove over there. Some little baby tomatoes, all cut into little rounds, and some grated cheese and ketchup, of course. Here's our little potato patties or little tater tots. So we're gonna put a little bit of ketchup on there. One of our mini burgers. A little bit of cheese. Some tomato. Lettuce. Oh my gosh, that is so cute. And then our top. That's adorable. Okay, there it is. That is the cutest thing ever. Let's try. This is probably one of the most delicious burgers I've ever had. It's so good. And I'm somebody who really likes crunch in my food. So the crunch of the brown potato on the top and the bottom is absolute perfection. My kids are going to love this. I thought we would end today's video with a walk around, and I'll catch you up on everything Dan has been doing outside. It's a lot. He has been blasting in roads all over the place, getting fences done, getting cows moved and all of that. So I thought I would give you an update on that. But first, we are going to eat these delicious little burgers. So I'll catch up with you shortly. Update on the house. I was sharing with you that we're going to be refinishing our house this summer. We did get a couple of quotes from a couple of great small businesses, but we have decided at this point that we are going to at least start on the project ourselves and see how far we can get, because we stand to save a significant amount of money if we do it ourselves. Let me show you this exciting thing that Dan did yesterday. So I showed you in, I think, our last video or one of our videos recently that Dan had brought a road down just to the forested area up here, and that it was going to be going down past the bunkie and then connecting up with our main driveway. And Dan is very stoked about this. I wish he could be sharing it with you himself, but he actually just went to town to pick up our bulk flour order. So this is our driveway over here, and then this is the road that Dan is building up to the bunkie. So we have a couple of reasons for needing this road. One, we did want to have a road where people could drive right up beside the bunkie instead of having to drive and park in our parking lot and then walk up to the bunkie, so just to make it more convenient. But also because we are doing logging this summer and we needed a road access up to the forested area that we're logging. And then the third reason is that we want to put in roads all over our property so that we can access all the areas of our land and have roads for quadding and horseback riding and even mountain biking. Isn't that fantastic? My gosh, I'm so proud of Dan. He's just kicking butt. So this still leaves a bit of lawn space in front of the bunkie itself, but we are going to make a little parking lot up in beside. And then this road goes all the way up and around and then up to the mountain. In case you're wondering what the red and blue lines are, those are slack lines. They are for balance. They're actually really hard to do. I was on there with one of my daughters yesterday. She was laughing at me so hard because my balance is just terrible. We have something in the barn to show you. Hi guys! See little baby turkeys. Hi guys! So we have 11 turkeys. We ordered 10, but they always give one extra. And then over here, we have our little meat chick babies. The reason that I have a board on here like this is to just give them a little bit of added protection from the drafts. And we have 100 of these little cuties. I have been raising meat birds and turkeys for many years, and if you ever look up raising meat birds or turkeys, you're going to hear a couple of things that, just in my experience, do not play out to be true. There's a couple of, I'm going to call them myths, although they might not be myths because the idea comes from somewhere, which means some people have experienced it, but just this hasn't been our experience. The first is that turkeys are stupid and that they don't know how to eat or drink or any of those things. What you doing? Did you lose your family? I have my sheep out on pasture, and I think Hazel lost the rest of the sheep. Hello, baby. Okay, I think she wants to go back. Go ahead. So anyway, what was I saying? I was talking about turkeys, and also that they're just kind of a bit of a pain because they're just not the brightest birds, and that just hasn't been my experience at all. I find turkeys super easy to raise if they have the right lighting and the right food. That's really important. Turkeys require a higher protein feed than meat chicks do. So if you're mixing them together and they are not getting a high enough protein feed, they will end up with leg issues. And they also require it to be a little bit warmer than meat chicks do. So just make sure your light is low enough that they can get the amount of warmth that they need at the beginning. So that's thing number one, just not been my experience. Thing number two is that Cornish cross, those are the chicks that we're raising. One of the other things that I often hear is that Cornish cross, which is the type of meat bird, it's kind of the standard meat bird, have all kinds of issues with legs and with heart attacks and things like that. Also, not been my experience. Hi everybody, cows. So we're still feeding hay because we obviously don't have enough grass up in the pasture to keep them satiated. So we'll feed hay out for a while yet. The other sheep are way up over here. Hazel's hollering at them. They're way up there. Can you see them up there? Hi everybody. And a lot of people say that you need to butcher them between 8 and 10 weeks kind of max, or they're going to start having heart attacks. And I have raised them to be absolutely enormous, like the size of a small turkey. I'll show you a picture here on the screen, and have not had that be an issue at all. Now, to be fair, I was sharing this on Instagram and somebody pointed out that perhaps it was because we give them a ton of space. We raise them on pasture with poultry netting, so they have a really huge area, and she thought maybe the issue that people were having is keeping them in too small of a space. And that could be the case, but we have raised them in all different kinds of settings. We have had them in small pens, we've had them in chicken tractors, we've raised them in a barn, and have never had sort of mass losses from heart attack from growing large birds. So that's not to say again that other people haven't experienced that. It's just not been our experience. Hi, are you gonna come down? I'm so happy to see them out on grass. I have raised Freedom Rangers before, and some other dual purpose meat bird. I can't remember what they were called. And I personally just love the fast growing, the feed to breast size conversion of the Cornish cross, and the fact that you can butcher them at 8 weeks. Hi! That you can butcher them at 8 weeks if you want to. So anyway, I feel like Bo Peep. You gonna come? Not feeding them grain anymore, but I will never regret feeding them a little bit of grain for the short period of time that we did, because they generally follow me. Are you gonna come? I don't have the grain bucket right now though. I don't know if I'll be able to convince them. Come on! And now all I have to do is shake the grain and they come running. It's fantastic. So I do love raising Cornish cross and the white turkeys. When I say that I love raising Cornish cross, I don't love the smell and I don't love the amount that I have to change their bedding. Whoa, check this out. Can you see that? It's a red ant nest. It looks like it was in the root of this tree and then Dan knocked the tree over. Oh, the whole reason I came out here was to show you our new fence. So this is the fence that Dan was working on. So we have one more line. We like to do 5-line barbed wire. It's just more secure than 4. So he has the bottom line yet to do, but he has done, I don't know, maybe 2 kilometers worth of fencing in the last little bit, which is great because we really needed to get the cows off of our hayfield. So the last thing that we need to do here is harrow the hayfield, pull off any like these kinds of sticks that are kind of along the edge of the forest area and any rocks, and then we can just let it grow. And hopefully we'll get some rain so that it actually does grow, because my goodness, it is dry. So I'm gonna go shut off this water and let Hazel back in with the rest of the herd. I hope that you enjoyed today's video, everyone, and I look forward to seeing you next time. Bye. Hazel!